Welcome into our NFL Draft Player Spotlight. Locked On NFL Draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. If you think you can run an NFL franchise, you can prove it by visiting ultimate-gm.com to play the Ultimate NFL GM simulation game. Start your dynasty today. We are talking NFL prospects. We're checking with Nick Farbaugh from Locked On Pitt because Kalijah Kancey has a wonderful name. I'm just excited in general because of that. But obviously, he just sounds like someone's going to lay down a tackle and just like be an instant great defensive player for your team. Do you feel like he can translate quickly to the NFL?
Kalijah is a freak of nature. That's how I would describe him. Like we're talking about a special athlete. Broke Aaron Donald's record at the combine 40 time, broke his program record for the 3-cone. And that's who he hears a lot of, Aaron Donald. I can't not mention that fact. Like they're both undersized, they're both super explosive, they're both super athletic, come from Pitt. It's natural, and the numbers, their athletic numbers are crazy. It's actually uncanny how close they are. But yeah, he's going to be a guy that can come in right away, and for the right team, can give you pass rush maneuvers, can give you production right away. If you need a guy that can come in on pass downs and you need pressure, he's a guy that can do that from multiple various alignments. And he's a high character kid. First in, first out. First in, last out.
Yeah.
That's kind of the type of guy we're talking about here. Set the standard. Um, you know, I've heard rumors of his game day routine where he basically goes radio silent to anyone not named the head coach or his position
Okay.
coach. He is a locked in, fierce type of guy when the game is coming up. He is a very, very, very fun player. So Kalijah Kancey is going to be a guy for the right team. He can be a big time addition for your franchise if he's got the right fit. Now that fit's going to be very specific.
So when you talk about Kancey, is in terms of fit, do you see him as in like an Aaron Donald situation, or is this kind of what kind of scheme do you feel like he would be best in?
Yeah, 4-3-3 tech is kind of where you think about him. And the
Mhm.
reason why, people were worried about his size. Well, he's 6'1", 283. That's not terrible. His arms are only 30 and 5/8 inches long. That is just really, really small. I think there's only been 8 defensive tackles ever that have measured that much lower at the combine in like 25 years of it since it's been recorded. So that's kind of crazy. And all of those guys have fizzled out. None of them have been drafted higher than like the 5th round.
Mhm.
And that's not going to happen with Kalijah Kancey. He's going to be drafted much earlier because he's a freak athlete. He has the film, he has the production, and he's got this really intriguing, in my opinion, intangible profile that I think teams are really going to fall in love with. So I look at the fit and say, okay, I need a team that needs pass rushers on the interior and that
Mhm.
is willing to use him on the outside too. Yes, he can be 3 tech, but also try him out as base end. Move him outside a little bit. His agilities are so great. This could be a guy that in the future could potentially move to edge. Could he be an outside guy maybe? Because he's got that bend and those moves, and he's so kind of multiple in the way he can be used. It's just that arm length that's going to be really tough to overcome because it's an outlier, just historically. So he's going to be an outlier, just like Aaron Donald. Before Aaron Donald, he was an
Mhm.
outlier. So Kalijah Kancey has a potential to kind of break the mold here, if you will, of a lot of teams, but not every team's going to be comfortable with that. So, teams I'm looking at like the Bengals, I think are a good fit for him. They need a
Mhm.
pass rushing guy and they'll let him just pin his ears back and go. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, make a lot of sense for him as well. So there are a few teams there. There are other teams like, for example, people have talked about what if he went right across the building to the Steelers? Well, that doesn't make as much sense because they don't let their guys do that. You kind of have to
Mhm.
be a big time run defender, and that's kind of where his negatives are going to be, are his run defense and taking on those double teams because he doesn't have that length to take on those guys. So you're going to be a guy that's a main pass rusher, and you're going to have a big time role, and that can be a valuable role in today's NFL. It's just going to have to be the right team that accepts those weaknesses and cares to his strengths, and not every team is going to be willing to do that because it's not what they need right now.
So because of his issues with the run, can he be an every play guy, or is this more of, only certain packages that he can run in?
Yeah, I view him as a sub package type of guy where you kind of
Mhm.
put him in on passing downs more than run downs. I'm sure teams will give him the opportunity to prove, that he can do that. If he can do that, I mean, he's really going to prove against the grain. But he wasn't even a super plus run defender at Pitt. He was a solid run defender. But when that becomes the NFL level, I think we're going to see him have some issues there. Just taking on those guys, he just does not have the length, and I think that is the one big thing. When you are going to get hit first just about every time, even with his explosiveness, he's going to have to win with his quickness, his power, and his leverage. And he's got all three of those things, but that's even not going to be a perfect guarantee every time, because physical measurements do matter a little bit at that area. So to me, there will be teams, I think, that are going to be willing to, like the ones I talked about. I think the Bengals and the Eagles are teams that are going to be willing to give him that. But I also like the Bengals and the Eagles because they have deep D lines where I know Kalijah Kancey can get drafted early, but he can get into a rotational role and do what he does best. He can get after the quarterback. He can put fear in other teams when they have that quarterback, whether it's a running quarterback or whatever. He's a guy that's going to come after you and he's going to beat you. I think that there are certain matchups where he's really going to shine. I think against running quarterbacks, for example, I think he's going to be great against them. I think, if you put him, for example, in the AFC North and Lamar Jackson comes back, I like that fit a lot. The Browns are another team that I didn't mention. I like his fit there too in a rotational role. These are teams that have deep enough D lines where you can get Kalijah Kancey into that rotational role where he can maybe grow a little bit in technique and become that run defender by year 3. But on year 2, I know he's going to be a menace as a pass rusher. And I think that's kind of where you look at him. But is he a 3-down player right now? I wouldn't bet on it. But I think he can grow into that because he's so versatile and he's such an athlete. I mean, I can't reiterate that enough. We were talking about an all-time freak athlete here. So I think that is kind of where his intrigue comes into play.
And that's a premium in the NFL. If you're athletic, if you're a freak out there, they will find a spot for you to play. So anybody that wants to keep track of Kalijah Kancey and where he ends up in the NFL, just keep track of Locked On Pitt. Nick will keep you covered and tell you exactly what he's going to bring to the next level. All this is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.